After successfully strategizing the gloomy male lead, I chose to leave this world immediately. Even when he begged me pathetically to stay, I didn't linger for him for even a second. Later in the real world, my life turned out really bad. The system approached me, offering $5 million as exchange for returning to the book to strategize him again. Just as I was about to agree, bullet comments suddenly flashed before my eyes. Damn, the ex-wife who abandoned the male lead is back. Almeo, does she really think the male lead still loves her? The second strategizer not only successfully reduced the male lead's darkening value to -100, but also voluntarily stayed and gave him a complete family. Now the happy couple is about to get married. Can this ex-wife have some dignity and stop bothering them? It took me a long time to realize. The ex-wife in those bullet comments was referring to me. Beside my ear, the system kept chattering, trying to sell me this deal. You just need to make Shinjishing fall for you again to get $5 million. Even if you fail, you'll get $50,000 as compensation. Pretty good deal, right? It was indeed a good deal. Right now, I truly need this money. But remembering those barrage comments, I fell silent for a moment before saying I needed more time to think. So the system decided to send me back into the book first. To be precise, back to the home I once shared with Shunjishing. A modest few dozen square meters, shabby yet warm, just like 3 years ago. Shunjishing hadn't touched any of my belongings. Even the dress I'd accidentally stained before leaving had been washed at some point and hung neatly in the wardrobe. If I recall correctly, this dress was once a wildly popular luxury brand. When Shunjishing secretly bought it for me, I scolded him harshly for spending so much. He didn't argue, just lowered his lashes obediently until my anger subsided, then gently coaxed me into trying it on. I bowed my head, fingers tracing the silk-like fabric. Took a deep breath. If Shunjishing had truly forgotten me, why would he still keep this house? I lifted my gaze again, scanning the cramped little room. My gaze was suddenly drawn to the white paper pasted on the window. On the translucent white surface, there were only a few hastily scribbled large characters. House for sale, price negotiable, urgent sale. The sharp strokes were unmistakably Shunjishing's handwriting. Before my eyes emerged dense clusters of small text again. Ha ha, the ex-wife must be dumbfounded. The male lead isn't clinging to their past at all. He just hadn't gotten around to selling this house yet. The ex-wife probably thought the male lead still loved her like before. Little did she know, after meeting the new female lead, he wouldn't even glance her way. The system only made her try to win the male lead back to create obstacles between him and the new female lead. The ex-wife is just setting herself up for humiliation. I pressed my lips together. So that's how it is. The system dared to offer $5 million because it was certain I would never succeed in this conquest. Making me play the villainess obstructing the main couple's relationship. That was its true purpose all along. It essentially got my labor for free with just 50,000. 50,000 yuan. I smiled self-deprecatingly. Being a clown once for 50,000 isn't too bad. That's a week's worth of ICU treatment fees. I called out to the system and readily agreed to the deal. The system beamed with joy and gave me a large sum of money for expenses, though it could only be used in the book. Since Shunjishing is so eager to sell this apartment, I might as well buy it myself. Gripping my phone, I dialed the familiar number from memory. It took half a minute before the call connected. A girl's crisp voice came through the receiver. You are? I froze for a second. Lowering my gaze, I confirmed. It was indeed Shunjishing's number. I was passing by and saw the for sale sign in the window. You want to buy it? The person on the other end gasped excitedly. That's great. Someone finally wants this place. I asked carefully, are you the owner? I'm the owner's girlfriend. You can call me Suhi. So she was the second challenger. In my days, there came brief static from the phone, like two people whispering. It felt like another eternity had passed. Someone picked up the phone again. Shunjishing's indifferent voice came clearly through the receiver. Hello, would you be available to meet in person? I waited restlessly in the cafe for what seemed like ages, until an understated luxury car parked at the entrance. The doors opened, revealing a picture-perfect couple. 3 years apart hadn't diminished Shun Jishing's striking features. The youthful softness around his eyes had been replaced by the composure that comes with power and wealth. He leaned lazily against the car door, laughing as he ruffled Suhi's hair in response to something she said. Across the vast distance, his gaze fleetingly swept in my direction, lingering just for a moment before receding like still waters. I was still in a daze when Suhi sat down across from me. She smiled apologetically. My boyfriend had something come up. He could only drop me off. I'm here to discuss on his behalf. I nodded sincerely. I can tell you have a very good relationship. Suhi's smile deepened. My boyfriend owns a tech company with annual net profits exceeding hundreds of millions. We don't care about the money from this property. We mainly just don't want to keep this house anymore. Her tone carried a faint sense of superiority. I nodded and followed procedure by requesting a property viewing. Suhi paused awkwardly. I don't have the keys with me. If you want to see it, only my boyfriend can personally take you there. I was slightly taken aback. He didn't give you the keys before you came. Normally, property transactions require viewings. Shun Jishing couldn't possibly not know this. Suhi sighed with a bitter smile. I asked for the keys, but he wouldn't give them to me. He's never taken me there either. She lowered her voice. To be honest with you, this was the house he lived in with his ex-wife when he was starting from scratch. It makes me uncomfortable, which is why I want to sell it quickly. I made an understanding sound. In that case, we can skip the viewing and go straight to signing the contract. Suhi was overjoyed. Fearing I might back out, she immediately pulled out the property sale agreement. However, she didn't have the property ownership certificate, so the transfer couldn't be completed immediately. We still had to wait for Shun Jishing to arrive. Idling time felt tedious. Looking at this fellow strategist who was just like me, I curiously inquired, "How did you two get together?" Actually, I wanted to know how she had successfully strategized to win over Shun Jishing. The system had told me. After I left that world, Shun Jishing had briefly relapsed into darkness. He slit his wrists, attempted suicide, and his darkness value once soared so high it endangered the stability of the entire world. Suhi came to his side during this exact moment. Not only did she reduce his darkness value, but she completely replaced my position in his heart. Shun Jishing wasn't an easy target to strategize. She must have suffered considerably. But Suhi said with a bright smile. Back then he had just been abandoned by his ex-wife and was utterly disheartened. I kept comforting him, and we confirmed our relationship not long after. Was it really that simple? I could hardly believe it. Before my eyes, overwhelming mockery appeared again. Ha ha, the ex-wife is totally losing it. The male lead just can't resist our sweet girl. You should know it took the ex-wife a full decade to win over the male lead. Countless times she threw herself at him before he reluctantly agreed to be with her. Our girl just exchanged a few words with him, and all those years the ex-wife spent were wasted. That's the power of true love. I silently read these mocking comments. They weren't wrong. The process of winning over Shun Jishing had indeed been arduous. So arduous that I never want to go through it again. Shun Jishing's parents never loved him. At a young age, they abandoned him in a mental institution, leaving him at the mercy of abusive orderlies. The patients locked there were all either insane or violent. The entire asylum resembled a heavily guarded prison. Even with the system's assistance, when I rescued Shun Jishing from that place, I nearly lost half my life in the process. I brought Shun Jishing to an unfamiliar city, had him study and walk the right path, arranged expensive psychological counseling for him every week. Did all this just to make him trust me completely. But Shun Jishing was simply too clever. He effortlessly saw through the truth of this world, including my identity and purpose. When the college entrance exams ended, Shun Jishing became the provincial top scorer. I celebrated happily for him, only to have him silently pull my arm, his expression icy with a barely detectable self-mockery. You did all this for me because you wanted to conquer me, right? After the shock passed, I sighed, choking up as I said, I like you, that's my purpose. Shen Jishing gave a light hum, clearly not believing it. Nervous, I pressed my head against his chest and muttered softly, Shen Jishing, stop obsessing over trivial things. These years have been so exhausting for me, you'd better quickly give me a better life. I truly like you, stop questioning me like this, it really hurts me. After graduating from university, Shen Jishing started his own business. We moved into that tiny, dilapidated apartment of just a few dozen square meters. There was no heating in winter. Being cold-natured, my feet would always freeze stiff and ache painfully. Every night, Shen Jishing would massage my feet without a word, his eyes red with heartache. By that time, we were already married. His life goals shifted from creating a tech company to destroy the world to the mundane pursuit of making money to buy his wife a house. We bustled about during the day, then huddled together on that small bed at night. When I faced unreasonable demands from an investor's CEO while securing funding, I didn't dare tell him and cried alone while walking down the street. I even stood firmly in front of Shen Jishing to protect him when facing deliberate retaliation from competitors, ending up in the operating room myself. I lost count of how many such experiences I went through, all to make Shen Jishing gradually fall in love with me. Yet compared to my decade-long pursuit, Suhi achieved it in just 3 weeks. It made Shen Jishing's corruption value drop to -100. His affection value even rose to 100%. Suhi was still telling me about the sweet details between her and Shen Jishing. She said Shen Jishing fell in love with her at first sight. I suppressed a faint bitterness and took a sip of my milkshake. Then, has he ever mentioned his ex-wife to you? Suhi thought for a moment, then smiled smugly. No, he must have let go of her long ago. I nodded. Better that way. I didn't truly want to ruin their relationship either. When Shen Jishing appears later, I'll pretend to be regretful and desperately cling to him. Given his temper, he'll probably be so disgusted he'll avoid me at all costs, right? After he rejects me, I'll take the 50 grand and happily leave this world. As I was plotting this, Suhi suddenly answered a call and cheerfully told me, my boyfriend's done with his meeting. He's coming to pick me up now. We're going on a date, so let's talk about the house tomorrow. I froze for a second, then forced a smile and nodded. Then I'll leave first. Suhi affectionately took my arm. Where do you live? I'll have my boyfriend give you a ride home. My smile froze on my face. Suhi was being overly enthusiastic. Before I could react, the car door had already closed. The cool scent of pine lingered leisurely in the air. Next to my ear was Suhi's coquettish voice as she happily showed Shen Jishing her newly done manicure. Shen Jishing sat right in front of me. From my angle, I could see his distinct knuckles resting on the steering wheel. He kept his eyes focused on the road ahead, yet responded to her every word. Looking at the man's strikingly handsome features in the rearview mirror, I felt momentarily dazed. Shen Jishing had never been this patient with me. When we were together, he was always insecure. He knew about my mission and feared I might leave at any moment. Every late night he would suddenly wake up in panic, desperately reaching for my side of the bed. Exhausted, I could only comfort him again and again. I won't leave you alone. I love you, completely separate from the mission. These lies I kept telling until the moment I left this world. Shen Jishing held my hand tightly with tears, begging me not to go, pleading for me to stay a little longer, to accompany him for a few more years. I sighed and refused everything outright. His face turned deathly pale, with pain and madness surging in his eyes. Why? Don't you love me? How could you bear to abandon me? Didn't you say you'd never leave me alone? I smiled bitterly. In the real world, I have my own beloved. Noticing my gaze, Shen Jishing frowned and lifted his eyelids. Our eyes met. The car suddenly lurched forward with a sharp brake. Caught off guard, my forehead hit the window with a dull thud, leaving a bruise. Sorry. Shen Jishing's voice sounded somewhat hoarse. He tilted his head slightly. We've arrived at your place. Only then did I realize, uttering an "oh" before saying thank you. When boarding earlier, Suhi asked for my home address, and I randomly named a residential area. After arranging to meet Suhi again, I got out of the car. Shin Jishing kept his eyes downcast, never once turning to look at me. He didn't linger for even a moment. The rear of the car vanished from sight in an instant. The bustling entrance of the residential complex. Hugging my arms, I slowly crouched down. I'm not sure how much time passed. A familiar luxury car stopped soundlessly, yet imposingly before me. The car window rolled down gradually, revealing the man's sharply defined profile. Shin Jishing simply watched me calmly. Get in. I'd thought Shin Jishing would find a chance to see me. But I hadn't expected it to be this soon. So soon that I hadn't had time to prepare myself to face him. In our standoff, Shin Jishing lit a cigarette. I frowned abruptly. I didn't like it when Shin Jishing smoked. In the past, I would have snatched it away and stamped it out without discussion. Back then, Shin Jishing had been obedient too. When I said to quit smoking, he never touched another cigarette. It was completely unlike now. In the pale white smoke, he scrutinized me without restraint. I restrained myself and was about to speak, when barrage comments flooded the screen again. What's the ex-wife being so reserved for? Does she really think the male lead still has any intentions toward her? The male lead knew she was back long ago. He just didn't point out her identity in the car because he was afraid it would make the younger sister overthink. If it weren't for warning her not to spout nonsense in front of the younger sister, the male lead wouldn't have bothered meeting her alone. I stood silently in place. It felt like having a basin of cold water poured over me. The momentary impulse from earlier had vanished without a trace. At this moment, I didn't care about his status. The pale hand resting on the car window lazily dropped down. Shin Jishing expressionlessly averted his gaze. As if thinking of something, he extinguished his cigarette with a hint of mockery. Didn't you want to buy a house? Get in, I'll take you to view some properties. The journey was silent. Shin Jishing showed no intention of speaking. Yet before my eyes, chaos raged. At least the ex-wife knows her place. Understanding the passenger seat is reserved for the girlfriend and voluntarily taking the back seat. Was the male lead supposed to warn his ex-wife's sister? Why did he take her to their old house? Don't worry, upstairs commenter. The male lead just doesn't know the ex-wife's sister's schemes yet. Once her true colors are revealed, he'll despise her even more. We arrived at the door. I couldn't help but speak up. Don't you have anything to ask me? Shin Jishing's hand holding the key paused. He lowered his head, raised an eyebrow, and quietly waited for me to continue. Gathering my courage, I said, like why I came back, how long I'll stay, and what my purpose was for buying this house. Not interested. Shin Jishing averted his gaze, his tone indifferent. I don't care who buys this house. Everything related to you will be erased. As for why you came back, he stuffed his hands into his pockets, seemingly letting out a scoff. Surely not to try winning me over again. After a moment of silence, I replied, what if I am? Go ahead and try. Shin Jishing pushed the door open. It creaked. The interior of the house unfolded clearly before me once more. A slanting beam of light, dust drifting aimlessly. Shin Jishing stood slightly behind and to my left, the hem of his clothes brushing against my sleeve. He didn't speak, and neither did I. In the silence, it felt like returning to an ordinary afternoon after our marriage. We were returning home from the market. All 10 of his fingers were laden with bulging plastic bags filled with vegetables and snacks I loved. We joked and playfully bickered all the way. When the door closed behind us, I leaped onto him, arms wrapped around his neck, giggling as I sought his lips. Shin Jishing leaned back helplessly. Until his back pressed firmly against the door, he held my waist and kissed me back tenderly. My wrist was suddenly seized. My body stiffened. Shin Jishing quickly released me, his expression returning to normal. Take a look. Selling it to you works too. Saves me the trouble of cleaning up. I nodded and casually walked a circle before returning. No issues. I've already scheduled the transfer with Suhi tomorrow. Just hand the property deed to her. No need for you to be there. All right. Shin Jishing agreed readily. After a second's pause, he drawled mockingly. You don't have to guard against me like this. If possible, I wish I'd never see you again in this lifetime. The only reason I'm meeting you alone is because I'm afraid you might say something inappropriate in front of Suhi. He raised an eyebrow at me. I don't want her to be upset. Do you understand? I took a quiet, deep breath. I won't mention our relationship in front of Suhi. Good. Silence again. The conversation had reached this point. Of course I knew I should take the hint and leave. But for that 50,000 yuan. I still spoke up with a choked voice. Shenjishing, it was my fault back then. I shouldn't have abandoned you and left. A ripple of emotion appeared in Shenjishing's dark eyes. He narrowed his eyes at me, seemingly deep in thought. Go on. I came back this time to make it up to you. And I realized I still have feelings for you. Could you? I looked at him nervously. Give me another chance. The room fell into complete silence. After saying these words, I was nearly overwhelmed by a tidal wave of mocking laughter before my eyes. I closed my eyes in humiliation. My face burned in waves, shameful heat. A long moment passed. Someone in the room chuckled lowly. What? Did your comatose husband in the real world die? So now you remember me, your eternal backup. I jerked my head up, a twitch flashing at the corner of my eye. My lips trembled with barely contained anger. All of this was captured in Shenjishing's pitch-black gaze. He raised an eyebrow. Sorry, didn't you see? I have my own lover now. His tone was deliberately light. Yet those dark pupils were fixed intently on me. My eyes felt dry. I blinked hard. I know. Shenjishing seemed to smile, or perhaps showed no emotion at all. In the end, all he left me was the sight of his back as he pushed the door and walked away. Satisfied. You've no idea how long I've waited for this moment. Ha ha ha. The boomerang finally came back to hit the ex-wife in the end. The ex-wife should just exit the system early. Even if she redeems the male lead 100 more times, he won't fall in love with her again. But the male lead still softened toward her. He left the house keys so she wouldn't end up homeless. Wait, what's under the keys? I froze for a moment, then looked at the table covered with a transparent tablecloth. Before Shenjishing left, he had indeed left the room keys behind. Beneath the pale yellow key lay a red booklet. Holy shit! Am I seeing this right? It's the property deed. Why did the male lead leave the property deed with the ex-wife? Shouldn't something this important go to the female lead? With trembling hands, I opened the property deed. Suddenly, everything around me fell silent. On the property deed, only my name was written. Then it suddenly occurred to me. When this apartment was bought, it was Shenjishing who handled all the paperwork. I knew I would leave eventually, so to avoid complications, I specifically told him to only put his own name on the deed. Little did I know, he only followed half of my instruction. He did indeed only write one person's name, but that person was me. So this house has actually been mine all along, making any purchase completely unnecessary. The scene before me grew lively again. I get it now. The male lead must have done this to prevent his ex-wife from seeing Sister May again. Makes sense. The male lead is now a self-made billionaire. What's a house worth mere hundreds of thousands? That's just the cost of one of May's jewelry sets. I'm dying of sweetness. The male lead's love for May is truly exceptional. Even after being together for over a year, he still can't bear to even hold her hand. I smiled self-deprecatingly. So that's how it is. I summoned the system. The conquest has failed. Can you send me back to my original world now? The system slowly types a question mark. Aren't you being too perfunctory? You think just confessing your feelings will make the male lead fall for you again? Where's that relentless determination you once had to win him over? I sigh. I tried my best. Then tell me what counts as not being perfunctory. The system pauses for a moment. Take the initiative to kiss the male lead. What? I exclaim in shock. If the male lead pushes you away, we'll judge your conquest as a failure. You can exit the world and receive 50,000 yuan. And if he doesn't push me away, the system hesitates. Then you must stay in this world until you successfully win him over again. Is this damn system crazy? The ex-wife actually agreed. What a despicable woman. Wah! I don't want the male lead and the sweetheart to have conflicts. Wah. I remained silent. In the story, someone has to play the villain. If not me, it would be someone else. I bargain. Since you've made demands, I want more too, 100,000, not a penny less. This small amount of money is nothing to the system, but it agrees while feeling puzzled. Are you really that short on money? Of course. The system continues asking. Is it worth sacrificing the rest of your life for someone who will never wake up? A pale face suddenly flashes before my eyes. I say, you wouldn't understand. The next day, Suhi invites me to a meal to thank me for resolving her biggest worry. I think deep down he still thinks of her, even if he won't say it out loud. Suhi whispers to me in complaint. Actually, many people have inquired about this apartment over the years, but he didn't want to sell, so it dragged on until now. I pause slightly and shake my head. Yuri overthinking it. If he really didn't want to sell, why would he post an advertisement? Suhi gives me a meaningful look, leans in mysteriously, and sighs. Let me be honest with you, actually. Before she can finish, the glass beside our seats suddenly shatters, followed by a deafening explosion. Shards of glass flew everywhere as I swiftly pulled Suhi behind me. A middle-aged man crashed into the restaurant driving an oversized bulldozer. Holy shit, holy shit. The villain appears. The legendary hero saves beauty moment is coming. Who will the male lead save first? So hard to guess. Can the villain just kill the ex-wife first? Her pretentious act is so annoying. In the bumpy trunk compartment, Suhi was both shocked and terrified, her eyes red like a little white rabbit. A year ago, when she first met Shunjishing, he had already built a massive business empire. Ostensibly just a tech tycoon, in this lawless alternate world he held absolute power. Under his protection, Suhi had barely experienced any turbulence. But I was different. During the years I pursued Shunjishing, he wasn't as powerful as today and couldn't always protect me. In the business world, there were open attacks and hidden schemes. As for being kidnapped, I'd already grown accustomed to it. With great effort, I twisted my body and gently touched her forehead, signaling her to calm down. Meanwhile, the villain had already parked the car on the wasteland. He picked up an iron rod from the passenger seat and walked coldly toward our direction. Holy crap, he's gonna hit someone with such a thick rod. This looks terrifying. It must hurt like hell. Don't hurt our baby girl, No way, right? If our girl dies, the male lead will probably go insane again. Exactly when his ex-wife left, he nearly self-destructed. If something happens to our girl, watching Suhi trembling and curling up in fear. I closed my eyes briefly. Suhi saved Shunjishing. She was the one who redeemed him, giving him the motivation to live properly. If she were to die again, as the rod swung towards Suhi, I moved in front of her. The shrill sound of police sirens pierced through the howling wind. The stick froze in midair in panic, barely a paper's width away from my face. My vision was filled with I remained in the position as if about to be headshot, straining to look into the distance. Several police cars surrounded the wasteland. The car door opened, and Shunjishing practically leaped out in long strides, his eyes immediately finding me. In my peripheral vision, his expression went momentarily blank, eyelashes trembling, still expressionless. Only his eyes had instantly turned completely red. The villain quickly made his choice between me and Suhi. He grabbed Suhi, pressing the sharp paper cutter against her carotid artery. Amid her screams, he dragged her backward rapidly, moving farther from me, even beyond the police perimeter. The police quickly closed in, confronting the villain. It seemed I was safe now. Shaken, I tried to stand up. The next second, someone rushed over and embraced me. Shunjishing was trembling. He held me tightly in his arms with such force that I could barely breathe. My neck slowly became damp with moisture. I wanted to laugh, but couldn't bring myself to. I could only stroke his back rhythmically, as I'd done countless times before. It's all right, see. I'm fine. I told you it would be okay. Why didn't you believe me? The person in my arms remained silent. That wildly beating heart finally calmed under my soothing touch. Didn't the male lead hate his ex-wife? Why was his first instinct to hug her? Hate my ass. Instinctive reactions don't lie. He's clearly head over heels for her. Then what about our baby sister? She's still in the villain's hands. My heart sank. I extricated myself. Let go, everyone's watching. Suhi is still with the villains. We need to rescue him first. Even now, you're still thinking of others. Shen Jishing abruptly cut me off, his cold, raspy voice trembling uncontrollably. Why did you take that hit for her? If I had been a step later, I wouldn't die, I said softly. Even if I died here, at most I'd just return to reality. But Suhi was different. Once a host decides to stay in the book world, their physical body in the real world automatically dies, leaving them to live out their remaining years only within the book. Suhi's death in the book would mean true death in every sense. Shen Jishing's expression gradually faded, as if even his breathing turned icy, leaving only a moist red streak at the corner of his eye. He lowered his head slightly, looking at his trembling hands with a self-deprecating smile. Being presumptuous, my worries were pointless. I almost forgot you don't belong here. Right, you still have that precious husband waiting in the real world. You must be itching to leave here early and return to him. I called out to the system, but its response never came. My mind was in complete turmoil. Just as my head was splitting with pain, Suhi's voice suddenly rang out in my mind. System, come out right now. She was practically roaring. Didn't you say Shen Jishing had eliminated all the antagonists? What's going on here? I let out a silent sigh. In the midst of the chaos earlier, I had locked eyes with the antagonist and recognized his identity. It was that male nurse from the mental hospital back then, the one who had bullied the child Shen Jishing by taking advantage of his physical size and position. On the night they escaped the mental hospital, Shen Jishing had smilingly smashed both his legs. If not for my face turning deathly pale, that antagonist's skull probably would have been the next thing shattered. Over all these years, Shen Jishing had encountered countless major antagonists, opponents whose intelligence and status were worthy matches for him, to the point where he had completely forgotten that in some corner, this insignificant little villain still existed. This is just a leftover minor antagonist, posing no threat to the male lead's career, so he wasn't included in the list. An unfamiliar system voice sounded, utterly emotionless. He kidnapped you simply to kill you out of spite. After all, everyone now believes you're the male lead's true love. Suhi's voice trembled with panic. I don't want to die. Hurry and save me. The system remained unmoved. When you signed the agreement to stay, I already informed you of the risks. Our relationship has been terminated, and I can no longer provide you with any assistance. But didn't you insist back then that you'd fallen in love with the male lead and would rather die than leave him? Now your wish is being fulfilled. If you die, the male lead might remember you for the rest of his life. I don't know if it's just my imagination. The system's voice actually carried a hint of mockery. Suhi broke down sobbing. Who said I loved him? We were never even a couple. He only pretended to love me in front of others. In private, he was ice-cold toward me. Being with him was like living as a widow. If it weren't for relying on the male lead to live a good life, why would I be willing to stay? Had I known he would get me killed, I wouldn't have redeemed him. Let whoever wants to go, go. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. The barrage reactions were even more intense than mine. Numbed. Thought it was pure love. Turns out it was just lip service. Shipping this CP feels like eating shit. Not even as good as the ex-wife. At least she genuinely stayed with the male lead through hard times. Facts. The second pursuer did nothing but freeload off the male lead. Am I the only one who feels bad for the male lead? Everyone's just using him. The male lead's truly tragic. He kept giving his heart, only to be betrayed again and again. Wait, who said the male lead fell for the second pursuer? What if they've been using each other all along? I abruptly turned my gaze to Shen Jishing. He stood quietly at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, his expression showing none of his earlier panic, just calm detachment as he watched the scene unfold. Host, did you just call me? The familiar voice of my dedicated system echoed in my mind. Sorry, There was an internal equipment malfunction earlier, possibly causing frequency interference. Did you hear another system communicating with its host? I shook my head and asked a question that had been troubling me for a long time. Can corruption values and affection values be falsified? Theoretically, no. The system said, but theories are bullshit. The male lead even dares to resist us. Is there anything he wouldn't do? I froze, resist. The system told me. After I left, Shun Jishing underwent secondary corruption. Excessive corruption values would cause severe backlash to his body. Living worse than death, suffering heart-wrenching pain. For this reason, the system had applied to higher authorities to delete Shun Jishing's memories of me and restore him to his initial settings, as if I'd never come. But Shun Jishing was too clever. Too clever to be controlled by them. The memory deletion had just begun, when he smilingly smashed one of his own legs to pieces. First the ankles, then the knees, followed by the wrists. While enduring the pain of backlash, he methodically pitted himself against the system. Memories could be erased, but restoring the body would come at a great cost. The system could only urgently halt the memory deletion procedure. Finally, they came up with a last-ditch solution. They dispatched Su He, an exceptional strategist who had redeemed countless villains, to test whether changing the person might redeem him. Su He was ultimately rescued. At that moment, she had already fainted from shock after witnessing the villain being headshot by a sniper. Amidst the chaotic crowd, I sat wrapped in a blanket in the corner, incessantly picking at my fingers. The system had just notified me that the hospital was demanding payment again. The money left in my account would only cover 3 more days. Over these years, to pay the exorbitant hospital fees, I had abandoned my beloved career, sold my house and car, and exhausted all my savings, and incurred a massive debt on top. Numbly, I worked day and night to earn money, yet still couldn't keep up with the hospital bills. The system urged me again. Listen to me, stop wasting your efforts. No matter how much money you spend, he won't wake up. No matter how important he is to you. Can he be more important than yourself? I stubbornly shook my head. I don't want him to die. I can't accept it. My unusual behavior caught the attention of those around me. A female police officer leaned over with concern. Why are you crying like this? Were you frightened? Do you want me to accompany you to see a psychologist? You can go about your duties. I'll stay with her. Shun Jishing had somehow approached without me noticing. He looked down at me, his eyes swirling with emotions I couldn't comprehend. The police officer hesitated. You are? I'm her husband. Shun Jishing showed our marriage certificate. Damn, I've been calling her ex-wife for so many episodes. Turns out he's the real deal. So the male lead acted all tragic and bitter, but couldn't bring himself to throw away the marriage certificate. What should I do? I was just criticizing them, but now I'm kinda shipping them. Distraught, I covered my eyes with my hands. Shun Jishing said coldly, Linji, who are you crying for? I didn't speak. Fine, keep your silence, he snorted lightly. I don't really want to know anyway. A few seconds later, he questioned me again. Do you love him that much? With reddened eyes, I looked at him and slowly nodded. He asked again, Then do you love me? I still nodded. Shun Jishing fell silent for a few seconds, then let out an angry laugh. He stood up and paced expressionlessly for several rounds, as if trying hard to calm his emotions, before suddenly punching a half-solidified concrete block. Dust flew everywhere. His beautiful knuckles were left mangled and bloody. Gritting his teeth, he grabbed my shoulders. Linji, you're not even pretending anymore, are you? What are you thinking? Do you believe I'd still have no bottom line for you like 3 years ago? 3 years ago, the year Shun Jishing loved me most. His affection value once reached 200%. Even after learning the real purpose behind my approach to him. To keep me from leaving, he shed all his defenses, kneeling before me without dignity, even desperately pleading. Linji, I love you. You can't do this, making me fall for you only to abandon me. Linji, I'm not asking you to give him up for me, but you can't discard me so decisively. Can't you have one more lover? One from the book, one in reality. I won't interfere as long as you're happy, You can even visit me less often. I looked at him, torn between laughter and tears. He didn't know. That lover in real life was also him, utterly different from the book's setting. In the real world, Shin Jishing grew up in a happy, healthy family. He was gentle, serene, like a morning breeze carrying dew. He died on the way to our wedding, in the wedding car. Through the window pasted with a red sheet character, I numbly watched the tanker truck crash toward us. The next second, Shin Jishing's face filled my vision. He shielded me beneath him, his long eyelashes brushing gently as they covered my eyes. Good girl, just sleep for a while. You'll be fine. The raging flames licked at us, and though the pain made his eyelids twitch, he still patted my back calmly. His voice remained steady and clear. Just like 10 years ago, when he squatted down to look at me at the orphanage entrance, smiling warmly. You look so sweet. What's your name? Before I turned 7, I had always been an unwanted child. My biological father was a rapist. I was the fruit born from bestial desire, unwanted from birth, immediately sent to the orphanage. The teachers believed I carried a rapist's genes. No matter how well-behaved or hardworking I was, I never received a shred of their care. Every prospective adoptive parent would first take notice of me after looking around, caressing my face affectionately. But I could only enjoy that fleeting love. The moment they learned of my origins, their expressions would change, and they'd immediately distance themselves from me. Except for Shin Jishing. He persuaded his parents to adopt me. From beginning to end, he firmly chose me. I believe in first instincts. She's so wonderful, why shouldn't she be loved? Shin Jishing was my brother for 6 years. He played the role of an elder brother to perfection, patiently teaching me and showing me right from wrong. At the same time, he spoiled me excessively. Within the bounds of siblinghood, I had unlimited power over him, such as ordering him to tie my shoelaces, rolling around on his bed, or even knocking on his door with a pillow on thunderous nights. Or like how he indulged me when I secretly kissed him while he pretended to sleep. What lay beneath the sibling facade, we both knew perfectly well. At 18, the Shun family went bankrupt. Mr. and Mrs. Shun planned to abscond with the money. I, their emotionally distant adopted daughter, was clearly not part of their plans. But Shin Jishing stayed behind for me. He patted my head with feigned nonchalance. It's okay, Gigi. Big brother will never abandon you. I love painting. Won numerous awards since childhood. But pursuing art is an expensive path. To let me paint without distractions. Shin Jishing dropped out of university, entered construction sites, and began working desperately to earn money. From a spirited youth to an adult burdened with responsibilities. Shin Jishing lived exhaustingly every day. He rose before dawn, sat by my bedside briefly before rushing out, and returned home late at night. Sometimes he came home exhausted, just as I was having nightmares. Without even changing clothes, he'd gently soothe me until daybreak. I once suggested quitting school to work and share life's burdens with him. It was the first time Shin Jishing ever lost his temper with me. With a dark expression, he told me to reconsider whether I truly wanted to give up on myself. The moment he turned away silently, I tearfully hugged him. His body stiffened and froze. The next second, I cupped his face, stood on tiptoe, and kissed him. Shin Jishing staggered back a few steps from my lunge. Yet he steadily caught that slightly impulsive, forbidden kiss and muffled a response into it. I love you, he sighed softly, so lifting you up is my mission. Seeing you happy makes me glad. Years later, in a parallel world, I encountered the same situation with him. Shouldn't you just focus on your exams? Why take tutoring jobs? I don't need you to earn money for me. Gazing at the boy before me, eyes downcast in gloom. I smiled, embracing him. I love you, Shin Jishing, so raising you up is my purpose. Mid-sentence, my voice cracked involuntarily. Seeing you happy makes me glad. The 3rd month after Shin Jishing's brain death, I woke again from the nightmares. Shin Jishing would never return. Frantically, I dug out the sleeping pills he'd hidden before death, spilling them into my palm. The system halted my deranged act. Do you know why you survived that car crash? Because Shin Jishing exchanged his soul with us to keep you alive. I stood frozen in place, the medicine bottle slipping from my hand. The system said, "His soul lost all memories and was placed into a character from a book. This character has a tragic background and needs redemption, but none of the previous strategists succeeded. Would you like to try?" Snapping back to reality, I calmly gazed at this beautiful face. Even in anger, it remained so strikingly handsome. Shen Jishing looked down at me and enunciated each word. "I'm not the same person from 3 years ago anymore. I won't be manipulated by you again. I don't even miss you." Before he could finish, I suddenly hooked my arms around his neck and kissed him. Our lips merely brushed for an instant. Then I was forcefully pinned against the wall. Shen Jishing gripped my shoulders tightly, the corners of his eyes red with humiliation, unable to utter a word. He looked like he wanted to hit me, or perhaps kill me. I pressed my lips together and was about to speak. Yet the next second, the tall figure silently lowered himself. He knelt before me just like that, closed his eyes briefly, tilted his head up, and slowly approached my lips. It was a posture craving tenderness. My heart trembled. Before my eyes, densely packed text appeared. "Buddy, we know you're stubborn, but couldn't you have held out for a few more seconds? Damn, you must be exhausted after pretending for so long. Did you think of this moment when you first noticed her return? Fake male lead. First pretending to be lovers with that so-called second conqueror, now acting cold in front of her, only to break character after one kiss. Honestly speaking, I haven't seen a kissing scene since the first conqueror left. So exciting. My mind went blank. Even my breath was carefully stolen by him. The system screamed in my ear, "Host, what have you done?" The male lead's heartbeat has skyrocketed to 999. As our lips and tongues intertwined, I gazed dazedly at Shen Jishing. A long moment passed. He retreated almost imperceptibly, his rapid breaths warm against my face. "Let's go home." Shen Jishing handed me a black card. I toyed with it, sighed, then set it aside, only for him to press it back into my hand with pursed lips. "I know you disdain the money from the book," he smiled self-deprecatingly, "but you still need to spend here. At least with me, could you treat yourself better?" I nodded silently. Shen Jishing was right. I've never been kind to myself. Before returning to the book, I hadn't had a full night's sleep in ages. To earn money, I'd abandoned my paintbrushes. Working 3 jobs daily from 5 a.m. till midnight. A 5-square-meter rental without even a private bathroom. I was utterly exhausted. So when Shen Jishing laid me on the bed, I fell into deep slumber. This sleep was exceptionally sweet. No awareness whatsoever, not even bothering to dream. I actually slept a full day and night. When I awoke, I found myself curled entirely within Shen Jishing's embrace. He was gently patting my back, his eyes half lowered, his smooth profile unusually serene. I rubbed my eyes and shifted to hold him in a different position. "How is Suhi doing?" Shen Jishing replied calmly. "She took a sum of money from me and went traveling around the world. The system had just informed me. While I was asleep, Suhi had made a scene demanding to see Shen Jishing. She could no longer leave the system. He was her last hope in this world." I nodded and teased with a smile. "President Shen is quite generous with the breakup compensation. It wasn't breakup compensation. Shen Jishing looked at me earnestly. There was never any real relationship between us. From beginning to end, it was just mutual exploitation, a cooperative arrangement. Cooperation. Her purpose in coming to this world was the same as yours, to redeem me. I adjusted the darkening value so she could complete her mission, and she stayed to act alongside me. I fell silent for a second. Shen Jishing. He tilted his face slightly to look at me, responding gently. "Was it your doing that brought me back into the book?" "Yes." He didn't conceal it. For dramatic effect, the system wants my life to be full of twists. Once I start living a happy and peaceful life, it will inevitably create trouble. I frowned. "Then how do you know the system will definitely come after me?" "Perhaps it might send a more professional strategist than Suhi, and not necessarily me." Shen Jishing smiled slowly. "Because both the system and I know it all too well. Only you can disrupt my emotions. I leaned on Shun Jishing's shoulder. I told many, many stories from the past. The man in my arms listened quietly all along, sometimes curling his lips, sometimes lowering his eyes in thought. After a long while, he pulled me up from his body and asked me seriously, "What do you plan to do in the future? Your life is still so long. Lin Ji, do you intend to live your whole life in the shadows?" His tone was very gentle, tinged with melancholy. I looked at him somewhat strangely. This didn't sound like something Shun Jishing from the book would say. After some thought, I said quietly, "It's all what I owe him." Shun Jishing's fingers paused as he frowned at me. "Why would you say that?" Gazing into those familiar eyes, my eyes grew hot with emotion. I was the one who harmed Shun Jishing. My feelings for Shun Jishing were far less pure than what he gave me. From our first meeting at the orphanage, I desperately tried to catch his attention. When he bent down and reached to touch my hair, my eyes sparkled as I eagerly leaned into his hand, watching him laugh with someone else. "Mom, see how fate has brought this sweet child to me." What fate? He was merely the ladder I used to escape my suffering. I never believed I could be loved, nor that he would unconditionally love a sister with no blood ties. So I deliberately sought his closeness. It was me, silently luring him to cross the boundary between siblings. In the Shun household, I used him to secure my footing. Later, when his parents left, I played the vulnerable role, so he'd willingly lift me up. Even suggesting I find work was just another tactical retreat of mine. At this point, my voice broke with sobs. Shun Jishing pressed my head against the crook of his neck and coaxed, There, what else?" And then there was that impulsive kiss. It wasn't the result of emotions breaking free. I was too greedy, wanting to leave a deeper mark in his life. Shun Jishing originally wanted to wait until I was a little older before marrying me. But I truly had no sense of security. Even if just for a second I didn't have him firmly tied to my side, I feared he would leave. So I used many methods to force him to marry me immediately. If Shun Jishing knew I had once schemed against him like this, he would probably regret dying to save me, wouldn't he? He wouldn't regret it. A calm voice pulled me back from my thoughts. Shun Jishing held me tighter and repeated, "It's okay, even if he knew, he wouldn't blame you." Romance mission successful. The system transferred 5 million to my account. Host, you can still choose whether to stay this time. The system said enticingly, "If you stay, we can sign the agreement now. Don't you want to stay by his side forever? This is a great opportunity." The same choice as 3 years ago. I was torn with indecision. The long silent bullet comments reappeared. "Don't agree to it. Staying means death. Those 5 million will still end up in the system's hands. The male lead is no longer under the system's control. The higher-ups have already sent people to erase him. If you stay, you'll perish with him." Damn! If only we could uproot the interest group behind this system. It's all these capitalists doing. Exactly. They exploited the male lead's business acumen and research skills to boost GDP, hiding in the book to reap benefits, only to eliminate him in the end. The system is so evil, woo-woo. Little sister, you should leave quickly. Take the 5 million and live your own life. I stared blankly at the bullet comments. My mind went completely blank. If Shun Jishing in the book died, his soul would completely dissipate. The Shun Jishing lying in ICU would become no different from a corpse. Panicked, I jumped out of bed and searched the entire room, but couldn't find any trace of Shun Jishing. A loud explosion suddenly erupted in the city center. A raging fire broke out in the towering skyscraper, the entire building glowing like red-hot iron rod. Oh no, the male lead is still inside. I never expected the system to act so fast. They must have used bombs. What extravagance just to kill the male lead. Little sister, please leave this world quickly. Wait, no, why are you rushing outside? I ran barefoot into the street. The fire spread rapidly. My ears were filled with the scorching sound of wind. In my memories, before that fuel tanker exploded, there was also this overwhelming sea of fire. I stood dumbfounded, staring up at the burning building. My beloved was inside there. Tears instantly welled up, but quickly evaporated on my face. In the tidal waves of firelight, I could almost see Shun Jishing's wavering silhouette. The flames were too intense, his figure already becoming indistinct through the layers of heat waves. Sigh. The main entrance has collapsed from the fire, we were one step too late. The male lead could have escaped, but he stayed to save that child and now can't get out himself. The male lead is on the first floor now. He could actually leave through the back door. Sigh. What a shame he doesn't know. Back door. I pushed through the crowd into the building, found that back door, and stumbled around inside like a headless fly. The barrage lit up with guidance. Yes, turn left there, the fire is weaker on that side. Male lead is at the corner at the end of the hallway. Amazing. My favorite CP is about to have a happy ending. The moment the back door collapsed from the fire, I grabbed onto Shun Jishing's sleeve. When he saw me, his gaze darkened with what seemed like suppressed anger. His fist clenched at his side, then slowly relaxed. I threw myself into his arms. He steadied me while holding me, saying coldly, "After always calling you Xiao Guai, you turn out to be not obedient at all. Xiao Guai." My mind went completely blank. I clung tightly to his waist, suddenly looking up at him, my arms beginning to tremble. He knew. When did he find out? My mind suddenly flashed back to that day when I woke up and saw Shun Jishing gazing at me. It was Suhi. She told him. So Shun Jishing had remembered everything back then. "Lin Ji, have I ever taught you not to put yourself in danger?" Shun Jishing scolded me sternly. "I've been dead for so many years. How can you still be this foolish? Do you know how painful it is to burn to death?" Flames surged down the hallway, and he frowned, shielding me as we retreated into a room. The door slammed shut tightly. At last, a breathable space. Yet I still buried my face tightly against his chest. Shun Jishing expressionlessly pulled me away. "We need to talk. Why did you come in?" He lowered his gaze. "To save me, or to die with me, eh?" I bit my lip and gripped his hand fiercely. Seeing my silence, Shun Jishing's delicate brows furrowed slightly. After a long pause, his attitude softened first as he said calmly, "Lin Ji, I've never blamed you. You're not a burden in my eyes, but a treasure. Without you," he paused, seemingly recalling something, then shook his head, "I'd never have known happiness in this lifetime without meeting the one I love. But I took advantage of you." I lowered my head, sniffling, "I don't deserve your kindness at all. Then do you love me, eh?" "What? Shun Jishing repeated. "After all these years, do you love me, eh?" It was a question with an obvious answer. I murmured, "I love you, but..." "No but, 19 points." He said, "Even if 7 parts were genuine and 3 were feigned, given your childhood devoid of love, you've already done remarkably well. You owe me nothing and I owe you nothing. You shouldn't torment yourself with guilt over my death. Live your life as you should. Tears burst forth uncontrollably. Heartbroken and furious, I couldn't help jumping up to hit him. "How could you say such heartless words?" He actually wanted me to give up on him. How could he be so cruel? Shun Jishing smiled, his clean features exceptionally vivid in the firelight. He pulled me into his arms and patted my back absent-mindedly. "You're only 26, with tons of money, a college degree, and stunning looks. After raising you so well, can't you agree to this one request?" Shun Jishing sighed softly. "I know you can't bear to lose me, but if I die, who knows whether accident or tomorrow comes first? Gigi, doesn't everyone have passing travelers in their lives?" Finally, he touched my face. "Let the dead rest in peace. After returning, bury me where I can see you. I jolted awake abruptly, drenched in cold sweat. This was my first night of sleep since returning to the real world. My phone buzzed with a notification. It was a bank deposit alert. My eyes widened in surprise. 70 million. The system's voice came through weakly. "Dear, this money is the male lead's inheritance. In the book it's 700 billion, but only this much can be withdrawn. Gripping the phone, something felt off to me. Even if it was just 70 million, it shouldn't have fallen to me. The system continued weakly. "Since I'm about to lose my job anyway, I might as well tell you more. The male lead's original plan was to keep you in the book. to prevent both of you from being disturbed by the system. He spent these years ostensibly expanding his business empire while secretly investigating the system, even finding my base. He had already planted the explosives. Once they detonated, he would have been completely free. Unfortunately, our bomb was just a step faster. He really tried hard to survive with you. Just missed by a little. I sat silently in the sunlight. Just missed by a little. Shun Jishing's self-mocking eyes surfaced in my mind again. He said, Gigi, you never know whether the accident or tomorrow will come first. I personally pulled out Shun Jishing's tubes and buried him in front of our home. Before leaving the house each time, I would bid farewell earnestly to that small mound of earth. When returning home, I would squat down and chatter about everything that happened during the day. Later, I thought the bare mound looked too desolate and ugly. Shun Jishing would surely dislike it. So I planted a loquat tree over him. I spent 70 million to open an art gallery and became its owner. Later, I even went to England to study art for 3 years. By graduation, my paintings had gained some recognition in the art circle. Not only did I paint, but I also taught, sending off batch after batch of vibrant students. During winter and summer breaks, I traveled the world for inspiration. Everywhere I went, I would paint a portrait of Shun Jishing's face. As time passed, the loquat tree grew from a tiny sapling into a towering presence, its branches sprawling outward like a vast canopy. Shun Jishing, you can rest easy now. Gazing at the enormous tree before me that seemed to embrace me. With slightly reddened eyes but still smiling, I said, See how happy I am.